Hey guys, what's up everybody? Welcome back to a season 2. Yes, we got a second season of Real Appreciation. And I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of today's episode, because today I sit down with none other than the legend herself from Mad TV, from Call of Duty, the Star Wars Jedi series, to a bunch of Disney projects. She has been all over as an actress everywhere you can imagine, but in my opinion, I feel that she is an even better human being, and my guest today on the Season 2 premiere of Real Appreciation is none other than Debra Wilson herself. And let me just tell you guys, what an absolute honor it was to sit down with Debra and talk about a lot of things mental health related. And a big goal of this podcast this season around, I told myself I'm going to make, is wanting to keep continuing to be like this, of a positive place and a safe space for everybody to talk about. My words are all over the place right now, but it's also a mission for me to destigmatize a lot of mental health issues that are out there, especially for men out there, because I know there's still a little bit of a stigma that men can't be open or vulnerable, and I really think this needs to change and stay in 2024. And I really hope that I am setting somewhat of a positive example of showcasing why it is absolutely okay for any gender, for any human being to be open and vulnerable. And of course, I have to get my pun in here because, you know, it's not the show without the puns. Because real appreciation is truly as real as it gets, and I want this to feel real. Okay? That is what I want. I want you guys to feel authenticity when you're listening to or watching this show. And I really hope you guys come out of today's episode feeling really good about yourselves, because each and every one of you deserve to feel good. And without further ado, please welcome to the show in her first appearance, because she's gonna be coming back eventually for a part 2 on the Real Appreciation Podcast. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Debra Wilson. Welcome to the Real Appreciation Podcast. I am David Clair-Bennett, and with me today, I have such an amazing guest on the show. Someone who I grew up with, someone whose career has spanned from the iconic sketches of Mad TV, the best Whitney Houston impersonator of all time, to bringing these unforgettable characters to life in video games like Call of Duty and Star Wars Jedi, even animated shows like Family Guy and American Dad, and so much more. Please welcome to the show the incredibly talented Debra Wilson.
Hey, everybody. David, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. It means so much. I was telling you off camera how appreciative I am of you for doing this. Thank you again. My
pleasure and my blessing. Thank you for asking, because you didn't have to ask. So I'm always grateful when someone asks and says, I appreciate you. Would you come on and share? And I was like, absolutely. Why not? Yes. And thank you. Yes. And thank you. The answer is always yes and thank you.
Well, thank you again. I see you, and I just want to tell you that.
I appreciate you, and I see you, and I thank you.
Well, you've had this incredible journey, and what really stands out is how diverse it's been.
I've had a very credible journey. People use the word incredible all the time, saying that this is not credible. It's very credible. You work towards something, you love something, you have goals, you have desires, and all the complexities that go with it, and then when it comes, when it is there, when you meet it at its place and it meets you, and it's powerfully credible. It's amazingly credible. It's divinely credible. It's spiritually credible. It's creatively credible. It's very credible. I'm amazing. Very grateful.
I am so grateful too. And seriously, everyone who's listening to this, what she just said is so powerful. Your words have impacted me just in the past 20 seconds. Just imagine what you're doing right now to the millions of people listening or watching this.
Well, I can't affect people. People can choose to be affected because they see themselves in an experience or a vibration or frequency in the things that I say, because what I say, I activate. And people activate all the time. And sometimes it's a matter of them going, wait a minute, I resonate with that. And this way they'll take ownership. So I cannot change someone's life, but people can choose to have their lives changed because they vibrate with something that works for them. And once they accept it, they make it their own, because it's always been their own in the first place. They're just now catching up to that realization.
I always say your destiny is up to you.
I think it's a dual thing. I'm going to play, for all intents and purposes, devil's advocate and
Okay.
say that we're not completely in control of our destiny. Why? Because each and every one of us on the planet, as we come together, make choices. So there are certain choices that happen that we don't expect, and we pivot. We have to pivot. We have to absorb. We have to pivot. We have to release. We have to surrender. We have to accept. We have to move through, go through, and get through. And so we're continuing to grow ourselves and better know ourselves. That is our true destiny, as opposed to this is my trajectory in the three-dimensional world to get this thing, to acquire this career, to have this happen. Because sometimes things like that don't happen. And so we're not always in charge of our destiny, but we always have the opportunity to be in charge of how we experience it.
Amazing.
Because whatever you focus on increases. So be careful and full of care what you focus on in the experience. There's where we have a certain amount of control. We're beholden to the three-dimensional world. So if you want to become a doctor, you just don't all of a sudden decide, I'm going to become one. You've got courses, you've got classes, you've got school, you've got medical school, and then you've got tests. So in other words, the world is going, yes, but you must do this first. Yes, but you must do this first. Yes, but this is the prerequisite. Oh, you've got to interview. Oh, you want to go to this medical school? Here's what we need. Oh, you want to get these grades to go there? So we're always beholden to the three-dimensional world. However, how we allow ourselves to move through that, that's where we have our destiny involved. Our destiny is based on who we are on the inside and how we handle things. So our destiny is not the outside, it's the journey, baby. It always will be the journey.
Amazing. I want to go ahead and focus a little bit on your career. And I want to ask you, was there ever a moment where you truly just had to sit back and ask yourself, wow, is this really happening?
No, I didn't, because for me, it wasn't a matter of, wow, is this really happening? I knew that it was a gift from God. I knew that it was a gift from the divine. I knew I had worked towards something and released it, because again, we're bartering with the three-dimensional world to have something happen. And so you put it out there. It doesn't mean that it'll happen. You just know, and you're in control of putting out whatever you desire, putting out your creativity and letting it go. So when it comes back, it becomes this amazing kismet. In fact, it's a humbling experience, because of all the people that auditioned or went out for that thing, and then it came down to the smaller numbers, and then all of those smaller numbers, to me, it is a humbling experience to know how powerfully credible that is. And what a gift, what an opportunity, and what a gift. So I've never looked at it like, wow, this is mind-blowing in terms of me getting it. I've looked at, wow, this is mind-blowing after I've gotten it and gone, look at the parameters. Because there are three things that stand out to me, specifically with Disney, where I was and continue to be blown away by the idea of what it means after getting it. First of all, on the ride at Disneyland in Anaheim, California, for over 40 years, they had a male Caucasian voice for the radio announcer, the 1930s or 40s radio announcer, when you're in the queue at the Jungle Cruise. And it was a very familiar voice. It was the same voice. It started with the park. That's the way it went. And they decided to revamp certain things in the park. They shut it down and they said, we're going to audition women for this role. And I auditioned for it, and I ended up getting it, because I love doing 1940s or 30s radio voices. That happens to be one of my wheelhouses. But I never thought something like that, especially for Disney, in an iconic park that already had that happen, come up. So for me, it was like, wow, it was mind-blowing on two levels, that now it's a woman, and now it's a woman of color. So a glass ceiling was broken. That's number one. Number two, the second one was auditioning for Daisy Duck and booking it for Mickey Mouse Funhouse seasons 2 and 3. And again, in the history of Disney, I am the second one on the Jungle Cruise, and the first woman of color. For Daisy Duck, for Disney. I am the 6th Daisy Duck in history and the only woman of color so far. And for Disney also, and this was a huge one, which broke me down, which really emotionally broke me down. I am the second in the history of Disney, the second person to ever voice Pat Carroll's Ursula, the Sea Witch, for Disney as a Disney villain. She broke the mold. I'm not doing my own version of Ursula. I am doing Pat Carroll's Ursula. And I always want to say and give respect and homage to the woman who broke the mold. So I never say I'm now the new Ursula for Disney. I say I am Pat Carroll's Ursula for Disney. Pat Carroll's Ursula for Disney. Amazing. And I just hope that her energy, her vibration, her spirit, her soul can feel where I'm coming from out there in that respect and that love, and who she is and what she left behind for me to ride the coattails of. Again, a woman of color. So I'm just very grateful that Disney has given me these opportunities to break the color barrier in that regard. In fact, I didn't have to break it. They broke the glass ceiling and said, come on in.
And that's something that you've always been very outspoken about, and I want to take the time to applaud you for that. Like, I know we don't have to get into why you left Mad TV. People know if they want to look it up. I think you did the right thing. I am so freaking proud of you for standing up for yourself and breaking the mold and breaking that glass ceiling and making people realize, hey, we got to do something about this. So kudos to you for that. Thank you.
It's an interesting thing because it wasn't a racial thing. I think what ends up happening online is people start putting their opinions in things. But what they do is they interpret and then they misinterpret information. And for me, it wasn't about who was getting the most money at that point. It was that they put a glass ceiling on me. So now, did it happen to be someone who was white? Yes. Did it happen to be someone male? Yes. But for me, that's incidental. For me, I want to bring this up. That is incidental, people. The deal was I had been there at that point. I had been the longest running cast member and the only woman of color. They had switched out different cast members. They switched out Black men, white men. They switched out white women. I was the only mainstay on the show. I felt like the matriarch of the show. And so I nurtured that space for everyone who came in after me. And I nurtured that space while I was there. And I grew myself and better knew myself while I was there. And then it hit a glass ceiling like, this is all you're going to get. And someone else came in after me, regardless. And I would have done the same thing had it even been a Black man. And they went, boom, came in after you, but you're going to make more. And Debra, you hit a glass ceiling. You're not even going to get a bump. Bumps in a contract mean we bump you up in the contract by $1,000 more each season, or even $500 more. It wasn't even that. And because I loved that show so much, had they just said, listen, yeah, he's going to get more than you. That's the reality, but we're going to bump you. I would have stayed. If they even just bumped me and I still wasn't making as much as that person, I would have stayed. It was the respect of saying, okay, as opposed to the whole concept of more money than me. More money than me. I would have gone, I love this show and I'm willing to, okay, I'll accept that bump. I'll accept that bump. If you raise that bump, like you said, I'll accept that bump. So for me, it wasn't about color and it wasn't about gender. It was about, we're not even going to touch your salary anymore. You hit that ceiling. We're not giving you any more. And now someone else is going to come in after you and make more. Doesn't matter who it is. It was a human being who came in after me to make more. And I didn't even get the respect of a bump like they had in all the previous seasons. So I just want to set that record straight.
Thank you for clearing that up.
And it was a challenge, way big challenge on my career and everything else after that. Way big challenge because nobody was feeling me. Nobody wanted me. I wasn't working a lot. And that's okay because all of those things, God was saying, you're going to you're going to continue to grow yourself as you continue to find that moral and spiritual space. You're going to hold to it. And at the same time, you are designed for this crucifixion so you can be resurrected into something greater. So your philosophical ideas and your spiritual ideas will be your greatest strength, and you will never be without them. And when you are not without them, people are going to recognize that strength and that power and the same joy that you had on Mad TV. And they're going to say, our doors are open to you. And that's exactly what happened with voiceover.
Amazing. And I'm a voiceover actor myself, so like I totally get it where you're coming from with that. And I also want to take the time to where you were reflecting right now on a really shitty time, admittingly. But here's the silver lining. Look at all the amazing stuff you're doing now. You've been in Call of Duty, Star Wars, Family Guy, everything. Mickey Mouse's Playhouse.
Mickey Mouse Funhouse.
Mickey Mouse's Funhouse.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is Tress MacNeille, the fabulous and amazing Tress MacNeille. She is the Daisy Duck for Disney. She is the character Disney voice of that. So when she didn't want to do season 1 of Mickey Mouse Funhouse, which was a preschool show, she was like, I've got a lot on my plate. And that's when they went on the search. Otherwise, she would have been doing it.
Well, I want to take this time to say, like, look at all the amazing things.
Silver linings. It's an interesting philosophically. I don't believe in silver linings because I think it's all one life, and we're matriculating through the experiences. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to, yeah, there are dark periods, but that is supposed to be to recognize that there is light within it. So even if it's dark around you, if you hold up a match or someone holds up a match, the dark doesn't become any less dark, but your focus changes. So for me, it's always about matriculating through your experiences and a focus. So there's everything that was meant to happen is supposed to happen because, again, it's supposed to grow me and better know me. It had nothing to do with the industry. It had nothing to do with the business, except for the business of love and self-love, except for the business in personal growth, spiritual growth. So I was designed to be that so that I can remember that in the middle of the pile of what is proverbial shit, God is always reminding you, remember, I made you minerals. You can turn shit into fertilizer any day of the week. What are you choosing?
And here you are, like, reflecting on that. And look at it like this. I told you off camera, this is a part of our story. And our chapters are still being written with new pages being written each and every single day. Right here, right now, this moment that you and I are sharing with each other right here on Zoom. It's a part of our story. Our story is not over. Every episode until next time.
It doesn't matter whether it's voiceover or anyone else who's listening who is not a personal participation for themselves, to know that when they walk away from what we're doing right here, David, they walk away with something that they can take that's a piece of themselves in it, as opposed to hearing what David has to say and hearing what Debra has to say. I want my greatest goal, my greatest desire is for people to hear something that they need for themselves. As I tell a human story, as you and I share human stories, not just voiceover stories.
If you could give a piece of advice to someone right now who may feel stuck in their life, whether creatively, mentally, or however that may be, based on your own experiences, what advice would you give to someone in a situation like that right now?
I wouldn't give anybody advice right now. You know why? Because I don't know them intimately and personally enough to be able to give advice other than a general thing. And I think if people really care, then I would never do anything that was generalized. I would never say anything that was generalized, because when I talk to people, I really like to talk to people more than anything else. In fact, I'm not on social media, and the only place where you can find me, where people can connect to me from people all over the world, is on Cameo. And I tell them, don't buy a Cameo. If you don't want to buy a Cameo, I make sure that my messages are free. And so I have people who message me all the time, and I get back to them and I communicate with them all over the world. And then if they feel comfortable, they share. And sometimes when people do book cameos, they feel vulnerable and they ask for a very personalized cameo, and they'll make it private. And I love sharing with people. I love sharing with people because I'm here to praise people in the name of love and raise people in the name of love. And that happens to be my main purpose. And then the voiceover helps to support and uplift my greatest journey, which is to simply love people. That's all of our journeys. We don't accept that because we live in the 3-dimensional world and we are beholden to 6 dimensions of it. which is to eat, sleep, shit, fuck, consume, and destroy. And so when we rise above those things that we do on a daily basis, we have a larger picture and a larger role to play that is more fulfilling to the soul. And so it is fulfilling to the soul, and it is a vibration that we get a chance to put out in the universe that raises the conscious vibration of love on the planet. And I know that that's what my calling is. And I think that's the calling of everybody. And we all do it in our own specific ways, our own intimate ways, and in our own specific and intimate times. And so for me, I would never want to give advice on a general level, because it's not anyone that goes, here's my specific situation. And I always want it to be very personal and very intimate, as if I'm hugging them right now.
I'm so glad I asked you that too, because I love what you're doing on Cameo. I've never heard of anyone doing that, and I think that's so applaudable. Thank you so much for doing that.
Well, you don't have to thank me. It's everyone else who comes to me. I'm grateful because they're the ones who say, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to be vulnerable with you. And I want to make sure that I create a sacred space for them to be loved and heard and seen. So thank them. Really, thank them.
I have to ask you about Call of Duty, because I'm a big video gamer. Talk to me. How does it feel just to be... That's so crazy. I'm sorry. How does it feel to just be in a Call of Duty video game, like as one of the main characters like that?
I've done a number of Call of Duties. Call of Duty, I've done at least 3 or 4 different Call of Duties. Brian Bloom, who is a writer, an actor, a voice actor, and producer, and PCAP performer as well. I met him when I was doing a video game called Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. And I knew Brian Bloom from television. I knew Brian Bloom from soap operas. I knew Brian Bloom from when he had a stint on Oz. And so to actually see this kid grow up on television in soap operas and then on Oz as a grown man, and then to work with him on Wolfenstein: The New Colossus was really cool. I had no idea that he also worked on Call of Duty for a number of years and was one of the producers and writers. He also wrote and starred in the reboot of the movie The A-Game. I mean, the A-Team, that starred Liam Neeson and Bradley Cooper. And so he wrote and starred in that as well. And so we got a chance to connect through the gameplay. We became close and silly friends, very silly friends. And then he invited me to do some stuff on a Call of Duty. And so the Call of Duty stuff, I have a number of characters that are soldiers. So I do 1,500 barks in a game as a soldier. And I continue to do that in different Call of Duty inceptions. And then I get the opportunity to have a role on camera in PCAP through Brian Bloom for General Lyons. And it was my first PCAP for that game, brought in by Brian Bloom. Then I auditioned for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and it's all VO. And it became a larger one. It was Exo Green. And so a couple of those I've done that I take people through the game. It was the Modern Warfare in which there were zombies.
Okay.
Which was the last one I did, and then the season after that. So I'm very grateful to be a part of the Call of Duty family at this point. Who knows where the future will go? But I know that up until the last one with Exo Green, I have been grateful to be a part of Call of Duty. Love the game. I don't play the game, but I love it anyway.
As we wind down here, something I like to do with my guests is every day when I wake up and before I go to bed, I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I want to flip that question on to you, Debra, and ask you, what are 3 things in particular, we can only pick 3, that we're grateful for, that you're grateful for in your life right now?
Everything, everything, and everything.
Seriously, I love it. And I also want to be very respectful of your time and let you go here, but I do want to thank you personally once again for agreeing to be so vulnerable and so fucking real with me. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate you, David. David, thank you for your time, because you didn't have to take the time. And I always say, like, even when I'm in my booth, whenever I'm in a recording studio, whenever I get a booking, whenever I am marveling that I am there doing what I do, I always remember to say my 6-word mantra: it didn't have to be me. But since it is, I thank you.
Have to be you, it didn't have to be me, but here we are, and I'm so fucking grateful. Thank you for being a part of the season 2 premiere of the Real Appreciation Podcast.
You know where to find me. And I'm not just talking about that. You know how to get me back whenever, the new year comes around, new stuff pops up.
Let's make it happen. Come on.
I'm going to take this quote from someone I recently met who is, I believe, going to become a very dear friend. And he said, I'll see you in the next episode.
I'll see you in the next one, Debra. I'm David Clair-Bennett. You've been watching Real Appreciation. Buy a Cameo. Don't buy a Cameo because it's free for a Cameo for Debra Wilson. Go check it out because she will listen to you like no one else has ever done something before. I truly hope you guys learned something today. Remember to love yourself, protect your mental health, because you fucking matter. Thank you so much, Debra. So, what do you guys think? I am very honored to have said that I got to sit across with Debra Wilson and talk all things mental health, positive vibes, good energy, man. I loved it. And I hope you guys did too. She is quite a wonderful soul, am I right? As I said on the podcast, and as I say in each and every single episode of the podcast, 3 things that I'm grateful for. That's like what I love to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and say those 3 things right now with each and every one of you. And it's going to be whatever I'm feeling in the heat of the moment, because I want to keep doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and say the first 3 things that come to mind right now. And I'm going to have to say my beautiful life partner, Katie, my friends, and last but certainly not least, each and every one of you guys listening to this show right now, getting as far as you guys did right here, right now. So grateful for all of you guys. Go ahead and say 3 things you're grateful for to yourselves. And remember to love yourself, protect your mental health. And hey, I hope you guys had a lovely holiday season. Happy 2025. Happy New Year, my friends. We'll be back next Friday with a brand new episode of Real Appreciation. Because remember, protect your mental health because you fucking matter. Much love, everybody. Thanks so much for getting this far. And I hope everyone has a great day, evening, whatever it is. I need to get on out of here. I got some things to do. But hey, we'll be back next week, like I said, with a brand new episode of Real Appreciation. Thanks, guys.